the question of where do I start when I'm evaluating markets, you can start anywhere. And I'll get specific as well, because I think that's most helpful rather than just like, oh, don't worry about it. That your question doesn't matter. It's not hard, the reason I say that is with the market worksheet that you have, if you just pick 5 cities and you're like, okay, these are the ones that I know. I know Portland, I know Austin, I know, Tyler, Texas, and I know some places in Minnesota, right? You can research those markets, put together the numbers, and you'll start seeing, oh, this is not a good market. This is not a cash flow market, right? The median home price is $350,000 and a 3-bedroom rental is $1,100 a month. That is like less than 0.5% rent to price ratio. So one of the core things, there's really 2 things you're looking for in a market. You're looking for the economy, stable and diverse. All right. So stable as in it's either flat or growing. Flat is okay. And then diverse, meaning it's not just one market sector. An example of an economy that would be just one market sector might look like Midland or Odessa, which is just oil and gas, historically volatile, right? And I haven't looked into this really deeply, but you might also think Bentonville, Arkansas. A lot of that economy revolves around Walmart, right? Now, Walmart's probably not going anywhere, but if you're looking at a military base town, right, and it's not, and the military base is the primary thing driving it, what happens if a new administration decreases our funding and all of your properties go from being worth $150,000 to being worth 90 because there's no demand, right? So that's not saying that all military bases or all Walmart market, right, are going to look like that, but you need to look through that lens. The other lens to look through, so that's the economy. The other lens to look through is, will it cash flow? And the best metric for us to use here is rent to price ratio. So this is monthly rent divided by the price of the house. And so then the question is, well, what's a good rent to price ratio? When someone says the 1% rule or the 2% rule, they're referring to rent to price ratio. So some markets will say 1%ers don't even exist anymore. And they're right in one sense in that their market probably doesn't serve 1%ers up, but they're wrong in the fact that they do exist somewhere. I've purchased 2%ers, right? We've got one of the guys looking at properties in I want to say it's Louisville. That was a 2%er. Matt might have even had something close to 2% with this one. He's got under contract at 10 grand. But all that to say, they do exist somewhere. You just have to find them. So rent to price ratio is your measurement for, does it have a reasonable likelihood of cash flowing, right? It's not a perfect metric, but you're looking for something on a property by property level, 1% or higher, probably. On a market level, you probably want it to be at least, if you're just taking medians, like median home price and median rent for a 3-bed, it needs to be 0.7 or higher to really even consider it. This is just from the analytics that I've seen. I've got an engineering background and my data nerd comes out whenever I'm making these cash flow reports and whatnot. I got really frustrated that there weren't any best cash flow markets reports out there. And so I just made one, right? Because everybody's like, oh, Austin's the best market for real estate. Well, if you're appreciation, right, if that's what you're going for, great. Cash flow is terrible. It's the worst decision, right? So so that is one way that you're going to evaluate each market is will it cash flow, and does it have a stable and diverse economy? The numbers that I encourage people to look around is around the 100,000 person population. All right. So if it could be lower, it could be probably as low as 40,000 people. But in that case, it needs to be really commutable to a larger metro. Right. So at least 45 minutes. But if you're going to look at one specific market, around 100,000 people, 80,000 and up. I probably wouldn't go higher than 200,000 just because I haven't seen students have success with those types of markets. If they're 500,000 people, the chances are that the demand is probably really more substantially higher and the median home price is higher because property values have been driven up. And that's totally fine. So as you're asking the question, where should I start? I would start looking at cities around the 100,000 population range. If you're saying, should I invest close to me, or should I invest close to what I know? You can do, there's a lot of different schools of thought here. One would be, well, I want to be able to commute there if I have to, right? And then you say, well, what does that really mean to you? I want to drive there in 4 hours or less. Okay, you've got a 4-hour radius, circle that around where you live, and then start looking at markets in there. What I found is really practical is zoom in to see that on Google Maps, and then your eyes are going to go to the cities you know, right? You've heard of them before, right? You might not know anything about those markets, but you've heard of them before. Look up that information, right? Start with them. Another thing you could do is say, well, I want to be able to travel there in less than 5 hours. So that means going to the airport, less than a 3-hour flight. Great. I've got a student who lives in the Bay Area, invests in Indianapolis. Perfect. That's fine too. It really depends on your comfort level. If you want it to be within an hour, that's okay too. The one thing I'd caution against is picking the market you live in just because it feels safer. If the numbers don't say that it's at least the same as the other markets that you're investing in, you're putting yourself at risk, because investing in a remote market forces you to delegate more. It forces you to make it more passive instead of getting to the point where you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll just property manage these, right? And then you're dealing with leases and showing, and you're like, where did the passive part of this go? People can get into a point where they're like, I want to save $100 a month on this property, so I'll manage it. And then they're frustrated that they're not achieving their lifestyle goals because they've constrained themselves in that way. That's just one thing to consider in your input. So if you wanted to do it in Texas, great. If you wanted to do it in Minnesota, any of those work. If you say, man, my family is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? And I go there often and I want to be able to write off all those trips. Okay, great. Evaluate that market. That's great too. So those are the things that I would say to give you a little bit more direction. Hey, thanks for watching. If this was helpful to you and you want to keep learning the most productive insider secrets about real estate investing, subscribe here. If you're ready to start building your cash flowing portfolio and do what I did, build a multi-million-dollar portfolio in 18 months so that you can quit the rat race 9 to 5 in less than 3 years, and you want someone to walk you through the entire process step by step so that you can move faster with less risk, be protected from risk, then click here to learn how I work with people. And I will show you how I help people get their first cash flowing rental in 90 days. Don't stay trapped, become financially free so you can do what matters.